had recently added a yarn department to the store. It was still a work in progress because Mrs. Shedd wanted the yarn we sold to be special and high-end rather than what was sold at the big craft stores. When she heard about a yarn store closing in San Diego and selling off their stock, Mrs. Shedd had sent us down there at the last minute. It was just the high-end, unusual stuff we were looking for, and we had packed the back of Adele's wagon solid with yarn. The rest was being UPS'd up to us. Adding the new yarn section was good and bad. Good that we were getting all this wonderful yarn, and bad because everything in the bookstore was already on overdrive due to the upcoming holidays and our big launch event. Now we had more work than ever. "Did you find the body?" one of the uniforms asked when Barry returned a few moments later. "Body?" I tried again to talk to the uniform, but he was impassive. That was when Barry saw me. When he's working, he usually has a neutral expression, but now his whole face relaxed, and his breath came out in a gush as he crossed the space between us. Then his expression changed from relief to a mixture of surprise and annoyance. Homicide Detective Barry Greenberg was my boyfriend. I thought boyfriend was a stupid title for a man in his 50s, but had given up on finding a better one and finally gone with it. "Molly, where were you?" Barry said, looking at the suitcase next to me. "What body?" I said, ignoring his question. "What's going on?" "It's okay. We'll get to that in a minute," he said. "You can't just disappear like that. So, where were you?" "Didn't you get my message?" I said. He shook his head. "I'm sure I left you a message." I stopped for a moment. I had left him a message, hadn't I? There had been so much to do when the trip came up, and I had been in a hurry. "I know I meant to leave you a message." I thought when I explained my sudden trip was work-related, he'd understand. His work schedule was such that he often disappeared for days, sometimes with barely a word. I guess not. He just got more agitated as he asked why I hadn't returned any of his calls. Cell phones are great, as long as they're charged. I pulled out mine, which was completely dead. Sorry. In my haste to leave, I forgot the charger. Now what about the body? By now, all the cops were listening to our interchange. Barry refused to give out any details until I explained the details of my San Diego trip. He snorted when I mentioned it was a yarn emergency. "Hey, Greenberg, we want to know about the body," an officer who seemed to be in full charge finally said, getting impatient. "It's bodies, and they're in the attic," Barry said, reaching out to catch me as my legs went rubbery with the news. Still, I pulled away and stumbled toward my house. As soon as I walked in the door, the smell of death was unmistakable. I covered my nose and went back outside. It took a while to get everything sorted out. The gist was that the cops had been at my neighbor's taking a report. Emily Perkins had called them, concerned that her husband, Bradley, had gone missing. Coincidentally, the gas meter reader was making his rounds, and while reading my meter, had noticed a bad smell coming from the bathroom window I'd left open a crack. Seeing the cops, he'd mentioned the smell. Well, woman with missing husband and dead smell coming from next door. The cops, taking the report, called out the cavalry. Barry heard the call and address, and he hadn't been able to get in touch with me for a couple of days, so he jumped to conclusions. And the real source of the stink? I had a backyard full of orange trees that attracted all kinds of rodents who had started making side trips into my attic. I'd had all the entrances sealed up, and some traps had been left for any stragglers. There had been 3. As soon as the pest control people came by and removed the bodies, the smell disappeared.